INEOS have made clear that their project is to win the Premier League with Manchester United by 2028. And they have chosen Ruben Amorim as the manager they want to put in place. Erik ten Hag has been sacked and they are replacing him with Amorim. What I'm going to do in this video is give you some top-line insight into Ruben Amorim as a manager in terms of his communication skills, his reputation, his tactics. We'll do a deeper dive into his tactics. This is more going to look at the man as well as the manager. And hopefully we'll give you a bit of an understanding as to why INEOS have decided, from all the managers available, he's the one they want. Let's get into it. Now, as I said, this has moved rapid, all right? From Erik ten Hag being sacked to Ruben Amorim and a deal basically being agreed. INEOS have clearly been working on this for a long time in the background, and they've wasted no time in moving for Ruben Amorim. And first thing I'm going to speak about with Amorim is, of course, his reputation. Now, I'm sure you're aware of this, but Ruben Amorim didn't exactly walk into a Sporting Lisbon that was thriving. They hadn't won the league in nearly 20 years, and in his first full season in charge, he won the league. A bit of an emphasis on youth, the likes of Pedro Porro coming in on loan from City. Then he had Mateus Nunes coming through, as well as some other younger players. And I'll speak about his use of the youth a little bit later. But that reputation has been built off excellent work. And it wasn't as if he walked into a Sporting team that was dominant and continued the dominance. He actually switched it around. A team who has been dominant before, hadn't won the league in nearly 20 years. Okay, well, who does that sound like? Yeah, that is a big part of his reputation. And of course, remember, Ruben Amorim would be Liverpool manager right now had Liverpool been able to agree on the release clause. Now, you might see City's PR machine coming out and saying, he was never in line to be a potential Guardiola replacement, but he was on their list. That tells you what you need to know about his reputation, of what he's done and what he's built at Sporting Lisbon. He could have been Klopp's replacement. He could have been Guardiola's replacement. But he's going to be Erik ten Hag's replacement. And that reputation is pretty strong. Now, in terms of the tactics, as I said, I'm going to go into a video taking a deeper look into this. But just on a top level, here's some information, right? Ruben Amorim, he plays a 3-4-3 system, all right? You've got your two wing-backs down here, always holding the width. You've got your three centre-backs over there. That's your line. You've got your two midfielders in a staggered midfield shape to give a little bit more pressing options. Well, options to play out. And you've got your front three, where you've got your two attacking midfielders and your one powerful central striker, who, of course, is going to be Rasmus Højlund. Out of possession, they're very good defensively on the transition, dropping into a 5-3-2 shape, well, 5-2-3 shape, sorry, with the two wing-backs, of course, dropping back, the front three and the middle two, keeping the same style. Now, in terms overall of his tactical flexibility, this is something that I will, as again, touch on in a little bit more detail later. This is from Fonseca, who was, I believe, a manager, was it Esterville? Of Sporting Lisbon's, local rivals. Ruben has a tactical flexibility, bases it on the opponent, particularly in Europe. Plays that hard defensive line most of the time. It's good on transitions. It's a positive game idea based around ball possession, which, of course, United fans would like to hear. In terms of an overall look at the style here, you can see chance prevention. This is from The Athletic. This is, of course, the closer it is to 100, the better Sporting Lisbon has been compared to all teams in top 7 European leagues. Chance prevention, right up there with the best. Press resistance, right up there with the best. Shot quality, chance creation, and intensity. These are the sort of characteristics of Sporting Lisbon's style. Now, this one's a really interesting one. Kind of showing you how the Sporting style has changed over the years that he's been there. You can see chance prevention, defensively, they're very strong and they are intense. The high line has gone up and gone down. Press resistance, look at that, how much that's improved. Now, this one's an interesting one. Circular has dropped quite a lot. And I think that, if I'm interpreting the data correctly, circular is about how much the ball is moved around possession-wise before they create chances. And now that they've got Gyökeres there as a focal point, they can play a bit more direct. So that it's not as if he's completely stuck in one particular style. It can be fluid and it can improve and tweak and change over time. But tactically, he's very strong. He's got his system and he's got his players to play in it. And they all understand it. And that's probably one of the biggest aspects, I think, of Ruben Amorim is the communication, right? terms of his English, it's not going to be a problem.
I like it because he's fair most of the times. I know that there's a lot of problems sometimes because it's a hard decision. But like I said, I didn't see the footage. So for me, it was very good.
His English is not going to be an issue. But in terms of his actual direct communication, this is something that I've seen from lots of different people, having done the research here, in terms of how good his communication is. Now, Seabra, again, is a manager who is... What manager was he? Don't know. Anyway, he's somebody who knows Ruben Amorim, right? He said, I think he wins a lot with his communication. It is really, really good. His message is clear and it's easy to understand. The players connect with him easily. Even on the outside, for the reporters and the public, it is really simple and really concrete. And this one here from Tom Kundert is fascinating. He's written a couple of books and he's been covering Portuguese football for nearly 20 years. He said this: he's a brilliant communicator, very open in press conferences, happy to respond to all questions, even the stupid ones, with an informative answer. Also retains a remarkably jovial demeanour, even when the pressure is on. He's one of those coaches who fosters a superb spirit among the whole squad, and that is no doubt the fruit of his communicative approach. But this is the important bit. In 5 years as a coach, I cannot remember him ever criticising any of his players in public, and I cannot recall one news story of an unhappy player. When things do go wrong for Sporting, which has not happened much under Amorim, he shifts the focus onto himself. Now, of course, it's not going to be anywhere near as rosy at Manchester United for any manager. So that's going to be truly tested. But for Tom, who has watched him for the last 5 years at Sporting, this is his interpretation of it. And communication is clearly a big part of it. And the man management side of things too. At United, he cannot allow any passengers, and that will not happen. But in terms of if everybody's on board, this is what he said about himself. I'm a bit like that. I identify more with the other side, more thinking about how I'm going to beat the opponent, how I'm going to try and make sure the others don't score goals. And there you go. Vasco Seabra, former head coach of Estoril, thought it was right. His team is really organised, fights a lot, and they are really intense. And we know they are intense because we go back to look at the data here, and we can see that intensity right there. In the 95th percentile of all teams in the top 7 European leagues. Sporting are one of the most intense teams. He won't take passengers at United. And if everybody's on board with him in that sense, that will change how United play. I don't think it will work with the whole squad, but yeah, that's why squad will have to be shifted somewhat. And this is something that a lot of people are speaking about, is use of youth, right? Here's some data for you. This is the average age of every team in the Portuguese league when Ruben Amorim took over. You can see Sporting Lisbon down there. What was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 11th youngest team. Fast forward to now, where they have the second youngest team. He has a strong focus on youth. Now, this is from Fonseca, who was manager of Sporting Lisbon's B team. It was brought in by, was it? I think it was him. I believe it was him anyway. It's what he said about Amorim's use of the youth. Because the work that he has done and is continuing to do in developing young talent is the biggest reason for his success. Sporting have an amazing academy with a lot of talent, and Ruben is a coach who has an ability to shape diamonds. And you've got some players, Diamande there, Inacio. You've got Mateus Nunes there, who of course joined City. You've then got Nuno Mendes there, who's joined PSG. Ruben Amorim has a lot going for him. And I think what has become clear straight away is how much INEOS were working on this in the background for a long time. And they've pulled the trigger. It's happening now because they have planned it to. West Ham was the tipping point, and Amorim is their solution. This isn't a panic decision. It's just something that's happened very swiftly because INEOS had it prepared. And when you look back at the summer transfer window, you almost wonder whether they had half an eye on this in the future anyway, because Euro fits inside a back three perfectly. I think De Ligt does too. Mazraoui could, probably more as a defensive fullback. Xerxes has played, of course, in a back three system at Bologna. Højlund's played in a back three system at Atalanta. A lot of this squad, Ugarte, a lot of this squad would very much suit him straight away. Now, you can let me know what you think in the comments. This is all going to be some top level. We're going to be doing a proper deep dive into Amorim's career, finding out a lot more about him, and also more of a tactical video that's going to be coming out later. But Ruben Amorim, while a lot of you will have fair concerns about comparisons with Ten Hag being an equally as revered coach when he came in, there is definitely more than meets the eye with Ruben Amorim. And I mean that in a good way.